Hey friends, it's Deanna here and welcome to our next sewing tutorial. This sewing tutorial is going to be the Be Fabulous dress. I have always loved ruffles, and this dress is full of ruffles, so I'm really excited because I'm just a ruffle type of person, and I am just in love with this dress, and I just want to make it together. So before I get started though, let me remind you about our Fun Fan giveaway, a $50 Alien Mag gift certificate. And all you have to do is subscribe to our channel and comment below. And then you will be entered for a drawing, which we do monthly. So go ahead and do that so you can be entered and win $50. That's a lot on Alien Mag money because our patterns are so reasonably priced. So you can get this pattern and many other ones and sew them with me. Okay. So once again, this is the Be Fabulous dress. Go get it. It's awesome. You won't regret it. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the bodice. So this is a sleeveless dress. So I've got my top and I've got my back. And if you've never seen this pattern, you need to go check it out. And I'm putting my back and my front right on top of each other at the shoulders. So they're just facing each other. I am also using cotton lycra for most of the this pattern. The only thing I'm using a rayon spandex for some of the ruffles because I had this pink rayon spandex, and so I'm just gonna use it. But everything else is cotton lycra. So I knit it at the shoulders, and I'm going to go ahead and sew the shoulders together. And I am using my serger. But any stretch stitch on your machine will work. This is a knit, so you will need a stretch stitch. And like I've said before, I know I feel like I repeat myself every time, but I just want to let you know what I would do is just try out a little bit of your fabric that you're using for this dress and see which stretch stitch on your sewing machine would work best, and then you go with that stretch stitch. So I'm just kind of steaming my seams. People tell me all the time, steaming your seams is the way to go. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and put our bands on. So I'm gonna put this kind of aside. I'm gonna grab my arm bands, and I'm going to fold them right sides together. Right sides together. And I'm going to do the same for both. And I'm just going to kind of put them right next to each other. Sorry, there's like thread everywhere on my table today, my ironing board today. I don't know why. Well, no, I do know why. Because I did already one of my skirt panels, one of my ruffle panels. So I have thread everywhere because I didn't clean it up after I did it. So I just kind of left it all there. So it's everywhere. Okay, so now I'm going to fold it in half just so I can find that middle part. And I am clipping it. Middle part. And clip it. And then I'm going to match that middle part that I made to my shoulder seam. And I'm going to put it right sides together. Honestly, because you folded wrong sides together, either one is a right side. So it doesn't really matter. Just raw edges with raw edges and then match all the way to the edge. And pin, and then we're gonna sew that together. It is so much easier to go ahead and put the bands on now than wait until after we sew it together. Because then, especially when it's a little dress, you don't have to worry about stretching it. Going around on the round, and this way really you can just tuck in that tail whenever you sew the sides together, and it's fine. So I am going all the way to the sides, and I'm going to go ahead and sew these on. So I'm sewing them on on the raw edge of the band. I just started it, and then now I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that they're all even and straight, and I'm gonna make sure when you're sewing this on, you're catching all 3 layers of your top, your shirt, and your 2 layers of your band. And then go back and check and make sure that you cut all in there, because then you don't want it later to have a gap on your arm. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and steam. Come on. That's my neckband waiting to be sewn. It's like, sew me, sew me. I'm like, I'm gonna get there. Hold on. Right? Okay. Always steam the seams going the same way. So if my seam is going down, I want to always make it go down. I don't want to go up and down, because then it makes the dress look kind of wavy. I'm going to match up the side seams now, and I'm going to sew these together. My side seams. I had a chocolate shake this morning, and like, it's not even coffee, but I think it's just a caffeine of the chocolate shake. It's got me all jittery. I'm like, hey. Does coffee make you jittery? All right, so I'm gonna sew up those sides, right sides together to form that little bodice. Make sure your seams are facing down, however you steam them. If you steam them going down, then make sure they're still going down, and then make sure that they're matching up when you're gonna run them over. Okay, now about these little hairs that stay up. What I usually do is I fold it down right over my seam allowance, and then I zigzag stitch it down so that it doesn't stand up and gets in and unravels, and that's it. Just a little zigzag over it, and now it is down. See that? Now I'm just gonna trim this. If my scissors would work, then that would be great. And then it's nothing there. It's just, okay. I'll do the other one in a minute, but as you can see, that's the way that you can get rid of those. Okay, so now our top is pretty much done. Oh my goodness, that's gonna be so cute. We just need our neckband. Okay, so I'm gonna grab the neckband, and I'm basically gonna be doing the same thing except for on the round. And I have all my papers. This pattern, I'm folding it wrong sides right now, and I'm gonna make a memory fold. This pattern has a lot of ruffles and things like that you're cutting out. So for me, I always like to place them in order and use the pattern piece right on top of it, so I know exactly what it is. I don't want to them get all confused, and then I don't know what I'm doing. So I always kind of put the pattern piece right on top of it, and sometimes I even pin it. Okay, so now we're gonna meet those raw edges, the short raw edge together of the band, of the neckband, and we're gonna sew it. And I'm just trimming this, okay? As you can tell, I just kind of threw it on the ground. Okay, now we're gonna fold it right over that memory fold that we already did. So it's pretty easy. And I am going to pin my seam right here where that seam meets. And then I'm gonna go fold it in half to the front. This is the seam to the front. This is gonna be my front. I always make my seam my back. I just kind of notch a little bit, take a little piece off that you won't be able to even tell when you're after you sew it on, but it's a nice guidance in case my pin falls off or anything. Now I'm meeting that front and that back together, and I'm going to the sides, and those are my quarters. I could also, I think I'm also really like kind of hungry, but I don't really feel that hungry. It's still early. And so I'm like really shaky. But the only reason why I say that is because I told my son as soon as well, later on today we're going to go to Publix. Do you have a Publix? And get a sub. Do you have Publix subs? They're the best. I don't know. I'm thinking about it right now. I'm like, yes. All right. I'm meeting the shoulder seams and I'm going to the back. I'm sorry. I don't even know where that came from. I'm going to the back and I'm going to mark. This is going to be my back. I'm just quartering my neckband, meeting my shoulder seams again and going to the front. Now all I'm thinking about is Publix subs. And then I'm going to meet the front and the back and go over to one side, okay? And that's gonna be my quarter. Now, it's not your shoulder seam. Always quarter your dress because your neckband, because the shoulders are not equal. So you don't wanna go by the shoulders being your quarters. If you do that, then your neckband's gonna be looser in the back and tighter in the front, and that's not gonna look good. So you want to make sure that you quarter your neckband. And now we're going to put that seam in the back, right sides together. And then match all these quarters with my other quarter points. So I know that I get this question a lot, so I'm going to tell you, even if you don't care, I am wearing the Discovery Discoverer. I love the Discoverer. It really is like my favorite pattern. I have so many of them. And not only do I make it just like it is, sometimes I color block the back, sometimes I don't color block at all. This one is not color blocked in the back. I just pieced it together and then straight. I love it. This is double brush poly, by the way. I know I get a lot of questions like that, but okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and see, I pinned it to all the different quarter points. Now, obviously the neck is a little bit smaller, so you're going to be stretching it a little bit to fit. So you're gonna put it right on there. And as you sew, you just go to the next quarter point and you grab. I usually use these two fingers right here and grab at my pin. And then this other two fingers grab farther up on the fabric and make sure that they're even. And then with this other hand, I move around. Make sure that you're grabbing all your fabric and nothing else that doesn't need to be in there. You don't want gaps, but you also don't want to catch anything else that's gonna get cut by the knife, the serger knife. That is the one thing that I like about using my sewing machine instead of my serger. But you don't have to worry about that when you're using your sewing machine. Okay, see, my pin just fell off, which usually I wouldn't know where my quarters are. I'd be like, no! But because I clipped, clipped a little bit of my fabric, I can see where my fabric is. Where I snipped, whatever the word is. And now I am finishing up my last quarter. And we can go ahead and that serger tail, tuck it in again like I showed you with my zigzag stitch. So you want to check and make sure that you cut all your seams so you don't have a hole. And then we're going to go ahead and steam. I like to steam my neckband inside out actually, because I want it to, see how it's like wobbly? Some of it is up, some of it is down. I want it to go all the same way. So you need to make sure, that's why I like to do it inside out. So that they're all facing the right way and then it doesn't look wobbly. It kind of takes away some of the wobbly look. Come on, stay being stubborn. If you have a stubborn fabric and you want to top stitch, you can. I'm afraid of top stitching, honestly. Okay. How cute is this top? All right. Now we're going to work on the skirt. Now, this is the scary part, honestly, because there's a lot of ruffles. But I'll tell you that ruffles are not that scary. They just take a little bit of time. But when you're making something with love and something as cute as this, I do not mind. Okay, so first off, I'm going to grab one of my skirt panels. Now, if you're doing the larger sizes, I think it's size 6 and up. If you're doing the larger sizes, you will have to sew the 2 ruffles together. So you have to sew 2 ruffles together to make 1 ruffle for 1 skirt panel. So you'll have to end up with 4 panels, but you'll have to sew the ruffles together because it's a longer ruffle. So it's cut, there's 2 each. So you'll sew those together first, right sides together, but I'm making the smaller size. And you'll notice it's a long ruffle. That's okay. We want it really, really ruffly. So that's why it's so long, okay? And so if you're making the smaller sizes, you don't have to pin it together. Your ruffle is already the size that it needs to be for each side. If you're making woven ruffles, before you cut, make sure that you add a 1/2 inch to the length of your ruffles so you can account for hemming them, because if you're making woven ruffles, they have to be hemmed or they will fray. And how you can hem them is you can do a zigzag stitch at the bottom and kind of pin them up and sew them. You can do a rolled hem, any kind of way. Or you can do a 1/4 of an inch and then 1/4 of an inch fold over, fold. And so if you're doing knit, you can do rolled hem if you want, but the ruffles, you don't have to hem. We will end up hemming the bottom ruffle. This bottom ruffle will end up hemming it after we put the skirt all together. But you don't really have to because it's a knit. It doesn't fray. It lays on top of each other. It doesn't really matter. So we're going to start with the ruffle, but what you're going to do is you have 4 skirt sides. You have 2 sides, a front and a back. So you're going to grab the 2 that are going to be your sides, and you're going to mark them with your pattern piece. You're going to mark where the ruffles are going to go. So I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to start at the second ruffle because I know that first ruffle is going to be right at the top. And I'm just marking it with a pen, but you can mark it with a pen or fabric marker or really anything you want to mark it with. But I'm just marking it with a pen. And really, honestly, I would even do permanent marker because, or, like washable marker, any kind of marker, because your ruffles are going to be right on top of this. So you won't even be able to see it. So it doesn't really matter. But I'm just doing pins just because they're right here and handy. If you only want to do a few ruffles, like you want to skip a couple rows of ruffles, you want to start your ruffles lower and not do them all the way up to the top, this is all up to you. This is a great thing about sewing, is that you can change the pattern to fit your style and what you want to do. If you just want to do this with 0 ruffles or just the bottom ruffle, go for it. It is yours. Okay, so you're going to do that. You're going to mark 2 panels, 2 side panels. And the other 2, the front and back, don't get any ruffles. So you don't need to mark those. Now, for all of 4 panels, you're going to be doing this bottom band. So we're going to go ahead and gather it. How am I going to gather it? I am just doing a long, I almost did the wrong stitch. A long straight stitch, a basting stitch, and I am going to just gather it with that long basting stitch. But you can gather it however you'd like to gather it. I like to just grab right here at my top, and let it do it for me. Oh, it's getting too close to the edge. Don't let it get too close to the edge because it'll try to eat it. So I'm just kind of grabbing it right here at the edge. Turning it so it doesn't get caught underneath. And it kind of does the ruffling. Now this bottom ruffle is super tight, which is kind of nice because then you don't have to be like, oh gosh, am I making it at the ruffles even? I'm just gonna grab my one side, and pull it and make this the tight ruffles that they need to be. And then I'm gonna do the same from the other side. Tight ruffles. So when you make it the size, the width of the bottom of the skirt of your panel. So each panel will have all this ruffling. And honestly, because the ruffles are so tight, I might not even hem this. So then at the two corners, what I do is I always just tie it. So that way it doesn't open up and look all funky. Funky. I'm gonna cut. This is the reason why there is so much thread everywhere. But like I said, because it's such a tight ruffle, it really doesn't, you don't have to worry about it being gathered, like, you know, did I gather too much on one side? Did I not gather enough on the other side? You know, it's kind of nice. All right, so I tied that side. Now, the width of the bottom, okay? And I'm gonna turn it, right sides touching right sides, and I'm gonna pin it to the raw edge. Pin it to the raw edge. Kind of organizing the ruffles so that they're all facing out and not, you know, sometimes they like to try to tuck in. You don't want them tucked in. You want them facing out. So I'm just pinning. Some people love to pin a lot. I'm not a big pinner. I don't pin a lot. I just do as few pins as I need to get it all right. So I'm just trying to make these ruffles stand up right. Ow. Just pin myself. Okay. I'm going to show you. Pin ruffles to the bottom. And now I'm going to go ahead and serge them on. If you don't have a serger, you're using your sew machine, you can go ahead and zigzag stitch them on. But I'm using my serger. Remove that pin. And I'm going to sew that raw edge, making sure that my ruffles are getting cut under. Ow, I hit my funny bone. And making sure that my skirt, my bottom of my dress, it's there. Don't let it go under, and then you're just catching the ruffles and not the skirt, and then they won't be together. So just make sure that you take it slow and you do it nicely. And remove those pins as you go so you don't get them caught on your serger and break your serger. That would not be fun. All right, after you sew them on, you're gonna check and make sure that you did sew them on correctly, that you don't have any gaps. And I'm going to open it up and steam it. Whoops, there were my scissors. And steam it. Now, honestly, this is gonna be my side panel. I'm gonna put my ruffles on here. So I'm not even worried about top stitching it right here. But if you want to, you can go ahead and top stitch that row right there. How cute is that? Even if you just wanted to do no ruffles on the side and you just wanted to do that big ruffle at the bottom, that would be so super cute. Sheesh, I have like something stuck in my throat. Excuse me while I drink a little bit of water. Anyhow, I talk too much. Okay, so here's my ruffles. And like I said, I have my my pattern piece right on top, and I have them in order. I have them in order 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because we're gonna start from the bottom and build our way up. Start from the bottom. So here's 7. I'm gonna grab my ruffle and I'm gonna do the same exact thing. I'm going to gather it the width of my skirt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start gathering these, and I am going to, you know what? Let me gather it and I'll show you a couple of them, and then I don't have to show you as I gather every single one of them. When I'm gonna go to gather, this is the rayon spandex, which is a lot thinner than cotton lycra. So I will put this little pin right there at the edge to help me pull it up as I'm going into my sewing machine, because sometimes the sewing machine wants to eat it. So I just pulled it up, and once it goes through, then it's not too bad. I'm holding it right here as I'm ruffling. Again, you can ruffle however you feel like it. If you have a ruffled foot on your serger, on the video for the Playdate dress, I showed you a way to ruffle with your serger, and that's a really neat way, but I feel like this is super easy, so this is why I always kind of tend to go back to this just basting stitch ruffling. I feel like it's just quick because I just do it on my machine and I just kind of pull it. So I'm like, I just like to do it this way and I don't have any issues. Now, let me give you a little bit of advice. Don't worry about your ruffles and say, oh my goodness, ruffles are so scary. They're not scary. And don't worry about saying, oh no, did I get them even? It's just so hard to get them even. You already know I am so relaxed when it comes to sewing. Sometimes a little bit too much. But when you're sewing your ruffles on, because there's going to be another layer ruffle right on top, I wouldn't worry about it so much. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink the fact, oh, is it ruffled correctly? Is it too ruffled on one side? You honestly won't even be able to notice, because there's going to come another ruffle right on top and you won't even be able to really even see this ruffle. Like on this ruffle, look at how cute it looks. Yes. But now this is going to cover it. That's why I didn't top stitch it. If it's not, the front doesn't have a ruffle on top, so I did top stitch that. But this one doesn't. And this one does have a ruffle on top, so you're not going to even be able to see it. So I'm just, evening it out. I'm going to go from pin to pin. So I have my one pin right here where it starts, okay? And then I'm going to the pin over here where it's supposed to end, the 2 starting / ending points, okay? And then I'm going to kind of curve it down a little bit. So it goes like, curve down a little bit. So it's right on top of that other one. So the first couple of layers, you're going to kind of curve down a little bit. But as you get higher up, you go straighter, 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 straighter. Okay? And then I'm going to pin. Again, I don't pin very much. Honestly, I don't know why. Probably would help if I did. If you're very scared about attaching ruffles, you can always base stitch them on and then attach them. See? I'm just going to go ahead and attach it. Now, how I am attaching them is I have a cover stitch, so I'm going to just top stitch them on. But if you don't, you can use a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine. That would be just fine to attach them on. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that. And then we're going to go the same thing I just did for that ruffle. We're going to do for every ruffle. So that was 7. Then 6 will come up, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1. So we're just going to ruffle that whole side up. So let's do that, and then we'll come back to finish it up. All right, so here we are down to our last ruffle. And this one is going to go right on top of, right on the seam. So you're going to put that one right on that seam, that top seam, that top raw edge. This is not really a seam right now, it's just a raw edge, right? And we're going to pin right there and top stitch it to that top edge. Now you could like serger on if you wanted to, but I think just top stitching is fine because then you're gonna sew the skirt and the bodice together. So you don't want a super thick seam right there. Was it that bad to do those ruffles? Let me know in the comments below. It really isn't too bad. It's just a little bit time consuming, but like I said, if you're doing this for someone you love or anything like that, it really isn't that hard, I don't think. But I'm gonna go ahead and sew this one on. But like sometimes what I do is I will make sure that you are sewing it to the actual fabric, not just like your ruffles are hanging off the top and then they're not getting caught. You want to make sure they are getting caught. Okay, like sometimes what I'll do is I'll like gather all my ruffles beforehand. So it's like you do like a batch, like you work like all at once. Then it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. So look at that, how cute that is. There's my one side ruffled. And here's my other side ruffled. My two sides are ruffled. And here is my front and my back. And I did top stitch the front and the back because I wanted that to have a smooth end. So I did like top stitch it right there at the bottom. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab the side of one of your ruffles and we're gonna place the skirt right on top. So it's gonna be one ruffled one that you put ruffles on, a side to the front. Okay, so I'm gonna pin it. Okay, make sure that you pin it at the top, and then make sure that your ruffles are all nice and even down, and you pin it right here, meet that seam. Like try to figure out where that seam is and meet it. Now, make sure that your ruffles are in. So I'm going to pin each ruffle individually so that they're in and so that they are straight. You don't want them to be all gathered up and bunched up and then you sew it and then they get caught up or whatever. And I will tell you this, I will sew down. So that way your ruffles have more of a like uniform look. Because if you sew up, then your ruffles might try to like bunch up and you don't want that. So I'm going to sew down towards the bottom. Match up those seams, which you really won't be able to see anyway, but I just want to make sure. And sew all the way down. Okay, so I have this pin and the ruffles are sandwiched. So I'm gonna sew and I'm gonna be very careful. Like I said, you want the ruffles to stay in there. So I'm gonna go little by little and pull in every pin and making sure my ruffles are facing down and they're caught in there and they're not getting tangled in and weird. Because they can do that. Kind of take your time on this spot and make sure that nothing else is getting caught in there, sticking up or anything like that. Almost there. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and check and make sure that the ruffles are good to go. Piece is on. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the other piece, which I already did. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and put it. I'm going to sew ruffle to ruffle over here again on this side. Ruffle to straight. I mean, not ruffle to ruffle. Ruffle to no ruffle. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on this side as well. Straight to ruffle. If you know, some people who are very particular about the ruffles, what they look like, you can pin your ruffle like not the edge, like you can put the edge right there, but pin the rest of your ruffle kind of out of the way. Like put a pin right here where you move these out of the way. If you want to do that for when you're sewing, so that way your ruffle is out of the way, the rest of the ruffle, and you only are catching the side of the ruffle, because that's the only thing you want to catch, really. You don't want to catch like the curve of the ruffle. So just kind of tuck it in there. If you want to pin it down, you can pin it down. So just take your time fixing it in there. You already did all this ruffling. You don't want to mess up on this last step, right? I know I don't. I want it to be even and cute. Okay, that one looks good. And I honestly, I think I like it better when I put the ruffle face up like this. And then I fix the ruffles first, kind of move them out of the way, just leave their edges facing right there, but move the ruffles out of the way. And then put the other one on top and sandwich them. I think I like that better for getting them like even. Sometimes, because when I sew the ruffle on, if the ruffle was like I sewed it on a little bit longer and I have a little more ruffle hanging out, then I'll leave it hang out, because that's better than not the ruffle not getting cut in there and then having like a straight ruffle. So like you'll see a little bit of ruffles hanging out. That's because at some point I went over the edge when I was sewing the ruffle on. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew those two sides on, and our skirt will be done. And all we have to do is just attach it to our bodice and hem our bottom ruffle if you want. And that's it, we're done. All right, so now my skirt is all the way done. How cute is this thing? I love it. It is so ruffly, so cute. I love it. All right, now if you want to, you can go ahead now and hem that bottom ruffle. Honestly, I think I'm just gonna leave it raw. And what I'm gonna do is on these seams, I'm just gonna tuck in the seams like I told you I did with the other ones. Just zigzag stitch it on. I think that's what I'm gonna do. But now we're gonna attach your skirt. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to grab it and fold it right sides, wrong sides together like this, meeting those two ruffle sides, those seams. And I'm gonna go to the front and mark it, and then to the back and mark it. And then I have all these ruffles. I'm sorry, I'm just getting rid of some of this. So I'm gonna match the front and the back, and I'm gonna go to the side and kind of mark it. It's kind of hard to see the mark, so I'm gonna put a pin right there just so I can see it because of all the ruffles. Going to the other side. I can see it, but I just want to make sure I know exactly where it's at. So I just pinned it. So now my skirt is quarter, and I'm going to do the same for my top. You already have the side seams, so I'm going to meet those two side seams and go to the front, and then side seams and go to the back. And now, since the front and the back are exactly the same, I'm going to look and see which one I like best to be the front. The only thing I'm doing is my top stitching. This top stitching looks better than the top stitching on the back. So I'm just gonna do it that way. Now what you can do is you can either fit your bodice into your skirt like so, or you could fit your skirt into your bodice. I'm just fitting my top into my bodice, making sure this is my front, yeah. The lower neckline is the front. And then I'm gonna match up those quarter points to my shirt. to my bodice, sorry. 1/4 point, side seam to the 1/4 point, then the back, and then the last side. And then we're gonna go ahead and sew it together. If you wanna pin a whole much, a lot more, you can. I don't really pin very much, but you're gonna stretch it out a little bit and sew the sides together, the raw edges together. I'm gonna start at the back. And when you get to that ruffle part, make sure you are getting the ruffles nice and even. And make sure you're moving the skirt out of the way. You don't want anything cut in there that doesn't need to be cut. You did all that work with the ruffles. You don't want to catch the wrong ruffle on there, and that would not be good. Make sure when you're going over the ruffles, they're facing down. Ooh, we're almost done. I'm so excited. Make sure that ruffle's down, because that ruffle wants to come up on me. No, no, no. All right. Now look at your seam. Make sure it's all cut and nice. Flip it over. Your dress is done. Ah, how cute is this dress, for Pete's sakes? Look at it. I am in love with it. If you wanted the whole ruffle effect to be all over the place, you can do ruffles up front too, and the back. If you just wanted the one ruffle at the bottom, you can do that. Look at how cute this is. I love it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm gonna go back and just put all these seams in. I'm not hemming. I don't think it needs to be hemmed, being knit. This is up to you. If you want to hem, you can. And I'm going to tuck in all these tails on my neck. But I love it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know if you have any questions below. Comment, like, subscribe, share. Come, and if you're not part of our Facebook or Instagram page, come join us at Facebook or Instagram and show us what you're making, and come look at what everybody else is making. We'd love for you to come see all the new patterns and all the new things. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time.